Hey there, welcome to another Tesla Motors Club podcast. My name is Lewis.
I'm Doug.
And I'm Mike.
On today's episode, we're going to talk about the Model 3 Highland leaks that came out, new FSD version 11.3.6, and privacy concerns that have sparked due to Tesla's camera usage in your car. All that and more starts now in episode 39. Alrighty, we're here. We're back. How are you gentlemen doing today?
Excellent, as always.
Did you have a nice Easter holiday or family time or whatever?
Sure.
Everyone?
I learned that the main supermarket in Texas, HEB, is closed on Easter for some reason.
Go figure.
Yeah, but I've never lived somewhere before where supermarkets were closed for Easter. But thankfully, Whole Foods was open, so we didn't,
You didn't starve?
we didn't starve.
Trader Joe's was open till 5 p.m. and I ended up dyeing some eggs. I haven't done that for about 20 years, so or longer. So that was fun.
Excellent. Right on. And yours was good to you, Mike?
We had a very quiet Easter for a change. That the kids are old enough that chasing Easter rabbits and dyeing eggs really isn't on their top 10 of things to do.
Excellent. But they still got some candy, right?
Oh, we all got candy, without a doubt. and what they didn't give me, I pillaged. So
Actually, I went to the stores. I hesitate to admit this, but I went to the stores.
You bought some Peeps?
No, Peeps. You know what? I liked them when I was a kid, and I can't take them now. But I did go to the stores on Monday, the day after, and got that 50 to 30%, 30 to 50% discount. And like, yeah, I might want to try that. It looks pretty good.
Yeah,
yeah. They give me some Reese's cups and whatever else. Yeah,
man. This coming from the spinach guy, I'm surprised.
Yeah. I do have a sweet tooth, the best thing is not to buy it, but it's on sale. I'm like, oh, but it's a deal.
Right? How much money are you saving?
Yeah, I save so much money on the.
Yeah, just like my wife.
No medical bills.
All right. Well, let's jump into this supposed leak, possible leak. Maybe it's a leak. I don't know. We'll see. We'll get everyone's opinion. So Model 3 Highland. So an image came out. For those watching the video, we will put the image up on the screen.
Yeah. So we should do that
in a moment.
Okay, here we go. All right. How's this?
There we are.
There it is. See the image. Car's a little dirty, so they might want to get that washed. Leaked images, it clearly wasn't leaked by marketing. I'll say that. If it was leaked, it wasn't Tesla leaking it, because they would have washed the car first.
I thought about that. Did Tesla leak it out on purpose? Because the master plan part 3 thing they did was a little bit of at least from my point of view, was a little bit, light on details. And would they have purposely leaked this out? I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I gotta say, I do like the redesign on the front, if this is a legitimate leak. I like the clean cut across the front, more like a Roadster than the little lip it's got today.
Yeah. My sense is that it does actually look a bit more like what the new Roadster, as they call it, or the 2020 Roadster they used to call it. Yeah, it has a kind of a nose like that. I think it's worthwhile looking back. Let me see if I can find it. So I went to the launch event of the Model 3, and this is what they showed then. For those that are just doing audio, and one thing that really noticed is there's really a kind of a pronounced duckbill on the nose of the Model 3 that they showed. This was back in March of 2016, and actually when I first saw it, I wasn't quite sure how I felt, but I did like the look of it. But me, and these are photos I took. It was very reminiscent of the of the Roadster, of the original Roadster, not the original Roadster, but the Roadster 2.5 refresh that they came out with in 2010 in terms of like this air intake.
It does look a little bit like it. I agree.
And this was that Roadster, that was a Franz refresh. Franz worked on that, and obviously Franz worked on Model S and Model X, and here's the 3. And so it's kind of cool though. Let's see, what is the current well, I look for our image of a current
mashup, right? So
yeah.
Why
don't you guys go on? Let's see what I have here.
Now, I'll say I saw another picture of the supposed leak car where it was more of a side shot, and it had different set of rims on it than what it showed in the official leak. Now, the only comment I had the official leak, the official unofficial leak. The interesting thing was the rims on that picture were just chewed up, something fierce, like someone had just driven the car down the curb. And I was just laughing to myself, going, "Yeah, you lost all those sensors, and nobody knows how to drive their car now."
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that we definitely see in this image, right? There's no ultrasonic sensors.
No sensors.
I don't know that really tells you much.
D. Robin commented, right? He doesn't see a nose cam, right? So I don't see a camera up front.
No nose cam. There's no fog lights.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, this is maybe mostly a styling study.
Pre-production car.
Yeah, and I don't know that it's confirmed that we're getting a nose cam on these. I mean, we've seen it on the Cybertruck.
If you look at those headlights, they look like the Matrix headlights, because I see 1, 2, 3, 4 little boxes of LEDs there. Maybe it's just a reflection. Maybe I'm hoping they're Matrix headlights.
No, they're Matrix headlights. The current ones are Matrix headlights. So they're just a different shape, right? It looks like they just changed the other ones were more like rounded, I guess, and these are more.
These look a little more angular.
Yeah. I like the look. I think it's an improvement.
It looks more like the Model S lights, but they're still different. You're saying it's different from the Model S.
I'd have to like hold them side by side to tell. They're definitely much closer to the Model S. They might be exactly the same. I wouldn't be able to tell. I don't look at the front of my car that often. so something I stare at.
You don't stand there and stare at it and go, "Oh, be still, my heart." Yeah.
So I'm usually in the car when I'm near the car, but it looks it definitely is close to this.
You have to look back when you walk away. I mean, that's
but
okay.
But I usually park to where I'm seeing the back of it when I walk away.
So we'll look. So here is the Model S as it was originally
Model 3.
The Model 3 as it was originally shown. And now here's someone on Twitter has done it. Chansu Bion, I guess, has a Korean guy, I guess.
Excellent Korean pronunciation.
Yes, has put together a little bit of a mashup here to show.
So the new one looks more like it's got angry eyes.
Well, they're definitely more narrow.
They
don't extend through the that quarter panel, which is interesting. Maybe that's good. In
an accident, cheaper to repair, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's actually nicer if that's the case. Because let's go back and look again. Because that's kind of an issue on So that's interesting. So you can see the seam here.
Yeah, the body line is the top of the headlight.
Yeah, because that's kind of an issue on the current Model 3. Not that it's causing problems, but when you have these like sort of points, these joints here, I like the idea of it not being involved in that corner panel. So that might make things a little nicer if there's an accident. Yeah, well, I like it. I like it's new. This sort of duckbill thing was the part that I thought was a little bit odd. So actually, I don't know that
Looks
I
a little
trust
more
this.
aggressive, which I clearly like in my cars. But
Clearly.
not everybody does.
Well, regardless, it's due for some change. I mean, the Tesla cars seem to just sort of
So the Model 3 came out, what,
sit.
2017?
Well, they first showed it in 2016. The first deliveries were in 2018.
2018. Okay. So
Yeah.
18, 19, 20, 21, 22. That's 5 years without a change. I mean, that's a long time.
Most other car companies would have had a change by now.
Or two.
Yeah. Tesla seems slow to do that kind of stuff because it is work. It's retooling.
And they were still scaling their manufacturing to get right. Like most companies aren't trying to scale their manufacturing, doubling it from what it was the year before every year.
True.
So I think as Tesla kind of settles down into that, you'll probably see refreshes more often.
Yeah,
Maybe.
well,
but also they do a lot of updates on the internals. So a lot of Tesla's changes are internal.
To me,
that you don't
and
see
I've thought about this. I've looked at the Model 3, and I still think the Model 3 is a good looking car, even though it's, quote, 5 years old. It still holds its own against just about everything else out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely again. I think it's an improvement.
It's aged well,
but it ages well. They're pretty timeless. The overall design,
that's
did a good job.
The word they kept using.
Yeah, they kept saying timeless.
No, but back when the Model S was first shown, and that was March of 2009. Yeah, timeless. They did change it quite a bit from then, but it had a sort of a faux grill. But yeah, they needed a timeless design. And I guess it makes sense as they're trying to ramp. They haven't quite gotten as many of this style out as they'd want yet. But yeah, maybe it's getting a little long in the tooth, and it's about time for a refresh. The thing is, like me, I don't care about cosmetics that much. I mean, I do want it to look cool, don't want to look stupid, but I'm much more about function and features and just how does it drive, sort of thing. So
come on, we all know you're one of those cup holder counters.
I'm definitely not that guy. I'm not that guy. You're being facetious. I mean, I'm the dude that got really bored back when I used to read our whole forum. I was like, okay, this is great, and then I had to add all this extra sub forums in the place so I could put all the stuff I didn't want to read because everyone was complaining when the Model S came out. I was like, oh, these cup holders are terrible. And they are terrible. And I've been driving a 2013 Model S while I'm sort of away here, and so it's a sort of older Model S.
Refreshing your memory about why you hate the cup holders so much.
Well, they're just I don't know how they came up with that design. They're just terrible. It's like you can either have the armrest or the cup holder, and you can't have either. There are things I like about it, sort of minimalist. There's no center console, really. It's just sort of the floor is mostly flat. And so you have this nice open area, this sort of, put a bag down or whatever. But yeah, it's terrible if you really want to use a cup holder. But mostly I have a water bottle like this and it fits just fine. And that and that was my main complaint back in 2010 or back when the Model S started to first do deliveries. I'm like, okay, here's an expensive car. They're calling it a luxury sedan, but it didn't quite have, it wasn't quite luxury level. I mean, I was like, okay. And I would tell people at Tesla, I'm like, look, it needs to at least be Audi level, it needs to be at least Audi level at this price point. And it just wasn't there. These ridiculous cup holders. So they've come a long way since then. And again, I don't really care about that kind of stuff, but the people that do care about those things, because they post about it. And so like as a company, they should probably work on that. So
they definitely should. But anyway, so this let's see, the Model 3 refresh, the Project Highland, is slated to roughly come out third quarter, maybe fourth quarter this year, but it's supposed to be like fall sometime this year. So I would expect it to be hardware 4 equipped, right? It should probably have hardware 4. But we don't know because hardware 4 is kind of leaked a little bit. It seems to be shipped in some Model X's, is what the teardowns and stuff have shown so far. But it's
So,
certainly not widespread everywhere
Lewis,
yet.
do you really think they're going to bring this out before they bring out the Cybertruck?
This car, absolutely,
You think so?
100%. No, I mean honestly, maybe not. The Cybertruck could magically appear tomorrow, right? Like we don't know, but what did I originally say? What was my guess? We did predictions, right?
We did predictions.
I already
the
forgot.
last year.
We're supposed to write that stuff down.
I think I guessed somewhere around September for the Cybertruck. So if my original prediction holds true, then Cybertruck should come out first. But we still haven't seen much on the Cybertruck. We'll talk a little bit. We did see a little bit, and we'll talk later in the show about what
we've had teasers, but we haven't.
We've had teasers, but yeah, maybe. So this might come out first. We'll see. And then there's for those that don't know, Model Y refresh is also in the works. That's slated to come out sometime next year. So it's called Juniper, I believe, is the
so my main question about all this is, again, I don't care about the cosmetics that much. I mean, is Highland really just about styling, or is there any other thing about it? Like, does it include things like the larger castings that some versions of the Model Y have? Is it using the larger cells, the potted battery pack that the seats mount directly to, that sort of manufacturing techniques? So that's, and will it have hardware forward? Will it have a nose camera? These are the things I'm more interested, because that's the stuff that will make me think, oh, do I need I'm not one that upgrades all the time, but and in fact, right now I wouldn't buy a Model 3 or Model Y because it doesn't have ultrasonic sensors, and but if it got that nose camera, I might start to think about it. Again, this is nothing I actually need. I drive fine, but if it makes a difference for things like FSD, and it's something I like to be more on the edge on, just to be able to talk about it and be experienced with it. Will it include those types of things?
So if anything, if we look at like the Model S and X refresh, that is when Tesla used it as an excuse to make fundamental changes to how they built certain things in the car. They did change, number of internals with like parts, how they assemble them, the types of packs, the controllers, the circuit boards, all those types of things.
Well,
so I mean,
also do with the interior, they went with the landscape screen instead of the
they changed the layout of the screen. They added so it's motorized, so it actually can tilt, all those types of things. Obviously they went to the yoke, completely different steering wheel. Now that steering wheel is available, but they went to different, so there was a lot of impact to also like the usability of the car and how they manufacture it and some of the feature set. So I would be surprised if that didn't happen with this. I would be surprised if they ship it and it's not with hardware 4, if they ship it and they haven't moved over to, the better castings or, some other improvements in manufacturing. The primary goal whenever Tesla's doing this, and from what it seems historically, is to reduce cost of manufacturing, right? Like it's always how do we improve the manufacturability of the car? How do we reduce cost? And then the cherry on top is, and make it look a little bit sleeker and newer and more modern so that more people will want to buy them. But so the things that they're interested in doing to improve for that manufacturing is almost always going to give you those bigger changes. But yeah, so cool. It's exciting. I'm excited. I don't know that I would buy one. I'm still with Doug. I'd want to see what other things come with it. And honestly, if I was to buy one, it'd probably be like another Tesla. It probably would be a Y or an X or something, because it wouldn't be mine. It'd be for my wife, and she'd want more of an SUV. There's no point in having an S and a 3, at least for our family. But anyway, so with that note, new FSD has come out again. FSD Beta version 11.3.6. Have you guys gotten to try it? I know, Doug, you haven't gotten to try it because your car is not with you.
Yeah, my car's on the other coast. And I did remotely install 11.3.3, which I haven't had a chance to drive yet. And now my car is saying, hey, install 11.3.6. And I won't be back for another week. I'm considering, do I just wait so I can try out 11.3.3 and then
install it? Just install it.
I vote install, but if you want to try them out and compare them, go
I
for
mean,
it.
I might just go around the block just sort of see what it's like, and then let it install, and then check it, see
Yeah.
what changes the next day. I mean, what are people saying in terms of is it an improvement? Because I had heard
Mostly good things.
11.3.4. I'd heard some people calling that a step backwards.
It was.
Well,
So-
it absolutely was.
It depends. So let's be fully transparent here. 11.3.4. Remember, we did our takes. For me, it was a big step backwards. It was really negative the first time I drove it. And there were people that said it was game changing and revolutionary and so much better.
Yeah.
And then some people that said it was worse. For me, it was worse. However, I do want to fully come out and say I drove it a bit more. Like I didn't just do one bad experience and stop. I continued to drive it, and I did some of the same routes that I did before where it failed. It was missing exits. It was jerking and around and like stuttering and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. All of that seemed to have gone away without a new software update. So it's possible it needed to calibrate. I don't know. It's possible it just, I don't know why it suddenly got better. There is, some additional information that gets downloaded when you do route planning. Maybe that fixed some of the mapping. But yeah, it did improve. It did get much better with 11.3.4. So it was actually driving pretty well for me, doing more of it. That being said, I now have 11.3.6. And it also seems to be a little bit better. I haven't done as much driving on it yet, so I don't have like a full report. But it does not feel worse than 11.3.4. It feels like it might be a little better.
So I have 6, and I will say that for the very first time in memory, my car was actually able to exit my neighborhood without an intervention, without trying to kill me, without trying to crash into a car. I was suitably impressed. This is the first time in 2 years it's been able to do this. So,
wow.
I mean, it's a big accomplishment. It's still really twitchy in town. People, I read on Twitter and around that, people just rave about how great it's in town. But when I watch the video, they are on wide, well-marked roads, blah, blah, blah. We don't have that here. we're in suburbia, and the roads are kind of iffy at times, and they're kind of crowded, and it still struggles with that. But I did 110 miles to San Diego and 110 miles back. And I did it primarily with FSD. And I got to say, on the highway, it's a dream. It is really, really better on the highway. And I will give them mad props for that. The car used to drift to the right whenever those emerge, little merge lane. It has stopped doing that. It didn't do it once, either way. It's identifying trucks like they should be identified as. It's maintaining the lane correctly. It's maintaining good separation. It doesn't seem quite as twitchy, trying to make up its mind when it wants to change lanes. The lane changes were actually very smooth when I let it do it. I tend not to change lanes a lot, but when I let it and told it to change lanes, it was very smooth, did exactly what was expected. So improvements there.
Yeah, I agree. My assessment is it is definitely much better than it used to be. It's improved. Again, haven't done a lot with 6, so I don't know how much better 6 is over 4.
Yeah.
But this again, lane changing smoothness. The only thing I did where I wanted to stop was or I disengaged it was when I was pulling out of my neighborhood. It drove all of that fine, but it's been able to do that for me for a while, even before version 11. But when it went to like pull out onto the main road, I was at a light and it did the whole I'm creeping forward to see, and there were cars going, going, and it basically was like, all right, I'm going to go now. And it went to pull out. Do I think it would have had an accident? No. Do I think it would have been able to do it? Fine. Yes. And I think there are human drivers that would have pulled out in that moment. I actually stopped it. I hit the brake. I didn't let it pull out because there was a pickup truck coming that was like, okay, yes, this will work, but I either have to gun it, which FSD is not going to do, or the pickup truck's going to have to slow down while I'm merging in,
which it's not going to do.
And there were no cars behind it at all that were visible. So it was like, okay, so I intentionally didn't let it drive out when it wanted to disengage. Then I pulled out and then let it go, and then it was fine for the rest of the trip. But yeah, so I mean, it's definitely improving. And I'm very happy to say that they're releasing much faster, right? Like we would go 3 months without getting an FSD update before.
Yeah.
At least it felt that way to me. And now it's like, what are we within 2 weeks we had 0.4, 0.5, 0.6,
So
which is pretty nice.
Well, it's a little more critical, right, when it's in the hands of people, and there's something wrong. They need to do those updates a lot
I
faster.
will say, and there was a comment up here by Mike, and I'm not going to try to say his last because I'll butcher it, but he was commenting.
He explained it to us before. You just don't remember.
You're probably right. Sorry, Mike. Still no school zone speed limit, and speed limit sign has to be a certain size. Absolutely. I've got a hill out here that's a 12% grade, and so there's a sign on there that says 25. If towing trailer. My car sees that and immediately slams on the brakes to 25, trailer or not. Yeah, it doesn't understand that sign does not apply to it, and it does struggle with the school. I've got two schools right next to each other, and the limits change pretty rapidly, and it just kind of throws up its hands and picks the speed. It doesn't seem to care what it is. So yeah, it still has some issues in town with that.
So what happens if a nefarious individual drives around with a speed limit sign on the back of their car, like, speed limit 120 miles an hour or something? Is the car going to see that and say, oh, and then
it won't go above 85. So there is a maximum limit. It won't go above
85 and a 25. Will it, will that happen? Will it respond to that?
It's a good question. I mean, so I don't know. I would guess on a highway it would happen because but on a small road it might not, because there's mapping, right? So they do have speed limit data and maps. We do now have evidence that Tesla is sending out updates from the fleet. So when all the cars are driving around, they're collecting data. That data is going back to Tesla. When you route into your navigation, it's downloading updated information, which kind of like layers onto the mapped route.
Sure.
And it'll adjust things like, oh, this road's closed. Oh, the speed limit's changed. Oh, this is the lanes I should prioritize, that kind of stuff. And what we're seeing in those situations, like, I don't know what's going to win, if it's going to use the mapped versus somebody having a fake sign. But I mean, on a highway, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I could see it going up.
Yeah, well, it needs more mapping data in town, I can tell you that.
Depends where you live. I mean, certainly, like mine, we had so I thought it was interesting. My wife and I were using it yesterday. We were doing this trip, local neighborhood, and it basically, there's a road closed due to construction during the week. So Monday through Friday this road is closed, but on the weekend it's open. Sure. And so I was like, what's it going to do? And at first it was like, oh, the road is closed. And I drove over towards it, and then it rerouted and was like, oh, and it let me, and it actually was like, oh, you can go that way, and it navigated through. So so it was kind of interesting.
So riddle me this, Lewis, or Doug, either one of you. I mean, yep.
I don't have a shot. Sorry, 1 second. All right, did my riddle me this shot?
All right,
okay,
you're all right. All right. So I had an incident where the car was at FSD on the freeway, didn't recognize the flashing lights from a flatbed hauler that was trying to do a pickup on the side, which also had cones up. Didn't see the cones either.
That's not good.
And I remember there was a lot of back and forth about flashing lights, emergency vehicles, and FSD had some issues with that a while back. I thought they had fixed all that. And I'm kind of wondering, I guess the question is it just red flashing lights that it only pays attention to? Because these were the ambers, because it's a non-police car. It's just a tow truck, big flat tow truck. But it didn't see it at all.
Was this during the day or at night? I'm sorry, what time of day was it?
This was night.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly, the earlier highway stack definitely saw flashing yellow lights, but my sense was that it didn't perceive them as flashing yellow lights. It perceived them as yellow traffic lights that that were turning on and off and on and off.
Yeah, well, it didn't do anything. It didn't move to the left at all to give more room because of the cones. It didn't seem to recognize the lights.
I don't think.
You know,
Yeah, I don't think it'll do any of that stuff. I'm pretty sure I've not witnessed it do things like, oh, there's a cop coming, there's somebody that's like, oh, let me move over, or there's someone on the side of the road, let me change lanes. I haven't noticed it do any of those things
I've
where you will
definitely
see that in like a Waymo or something. They
never
for
Yeah.
sure do it.
in recent months. I think it's still pre version 11, though I've seen it definitely react to emergency vehicle and it will slow down. It starts seeing those flashing lights.
Mm.
I'm not sure about yellow, but certainly the red and blues.
Or the red and blues. Yeah.
It will slow down.
Okay.
And I'm wondering with your situation, Mike. I mean, like I don't understand the failure mode where, and this has happened, where the car just slams into a cop car or a fire truck.
Yeah. I mean, I've read the stories,
I just don't understand that failure mode to begin with. So, and that what you're saying starts to sound like that, where for some reason it just decided to be blind to that.
You know, it didn't see the lights, and then that caused me to pay a little more closer attention to the screen. And I realized it didn't see the cones this guy had set up either. So
Weird.
this guy had yellow cones set along the side of the road because there wasn't a big shoulder, so he's kind of in the lane a little bit, you know, trying to pick up this car, and the car just completely ignored it.
That's interesting. I've usually had it see cones, but I mean it's been more like actual construction cones, like more like barriers. It'll even see.
Oh, I've seen those, but
it'll even see like we have these tiny little white sticks for like separating one of the express lanes in Austin. It sees those as cones, like it does.
It'll render it as a cone, yeah.
Yeah. So
no,
it usually does see stuff.
These were little, you know, the shorty. I guess they're what, maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet high. You know, they're not that tall.
And then were they yellow or orange?
They're orange. They're
orange. Okay.
They're just a standard orange cone that you'd put
Interesting.
up.
Wait, so are they normal cones or like the small cones that you'll see at a
soccer game?
You know, a soccer game.
Yeah, no, they're bigger. They're bigger what you put up for your kids in the street playing
or
soccer.
autocross.
But they're not the big tall cones like you'd expect a city worker to put up.
Sure.
Huh.
They're kind of in between.
Seems to me I should have seen that. So
yeah, I would think so too. It's also possible it sees things, doesn't render it, but like if it's but I'm with you. If it is not rendering it, I'm assuming it doesn't see it.
I'm assuming it didn't see it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's interesting because like I think in Maryland they recently made it the law that you're supposed to, if there's like a cop car and on the shoulder on the right, you're actually supposed to move over from the far right lane.
That's a law in many states, actually. I've lived a few places that have had that.
Well, somewhere I don't remember, but somewhere where it's become recent, and it's a good idea because those people get hit often because they're sticking out in the side. So slowing down and then moving over a lane is a good idea, and they should program that in to the behavior. Like if it sees an emergency vehicle.
The other incident I had that's probably worth noting is and I'm not going to say this is a bug, but it's pause for thought. So the car FSD wanted and moved into the toll road, or not toll, carpool lane.
Carpool lane.
It moved into a carpool lane. It didn't wait for the proper entrance, and I hadn't told it to move into the carpool lane. It just decided, since the carpool lane was doing 70 and everybody else was doing 55, it was time to move over. Now I had
good job, Tesla.
Yeah, I had not disabled. In the mapping software, don't use the carpool lane. So,
it's your fault.
Typically, is it really? I mean,
it doesn't. Okay, one could argue the car could know how many passengers are in it by sensors, right? So one could argue that it could automate that setting, but they clearly don't. It's a manual setting. So if you haven't set the setting, you can't really fault the car for ignoring it.
So why did it wait for the proper lane to do it?
Yeah, is it a solid line or is it a dotted line, or what's the separation? We have
solids and then it breaks where you're allowed to move in and out.
Is it a double solid or just a single solid? I mean, that can make a difference. Like in LA, you'll have these HOV lanes where you're only supposed to get in at a particular spot.
I honestly don't remember offhand. I'd have to pay attention again.
Because back when I took the California driver's test or whatever, I didn't take a driver's test, but I had a written test or whatever.
Right.
I believe you could cross solid lines if you had to. You could cross a solid white line in California. That was allowed. It's suggested that you not. So I just, is it breaking the law? Or what? What's going on when it goes into that lane?
Technically, you're in the car, and
Yeah.
then ChatGPT's in the car. I mean,
Well-
FSD's in the car.
So-
It's two entities, right?
And Doug, here's the kicker to this that kind of got me thinking about it.
Uh-huh.
At the time, I was by myself.
Uh-huh.
Now, technically speaking, if I didn't have the stickers on the car, I shouldn't be in that lane at all, regardless.
Okay.
Now, I happen to have the stickers. So the fact that moved into the lane, I'm legal, even just by myself. But the fact the car picked the carpool lane without multiple passengers in the car tells me what Lewis is saying is the car's not really sensing there's more than one person. It just sees
I
an open
mean,
lane.
we know that though. We know it's not sensing that, right? I mean,
It should be, but it's not. And we'll come to that next.
could,
That's going to be
but
our
it's
next
not.
topic. We'll talk about that. So Matt Senkow, hopefully I said that right. Matt asked a question of us. He said, what do you three think of the way Tesla comes to a complete stop at stop signs? You just hit the accelerator every time. Now, Mike in the chat says, yes, he has to do it. He has to hit the accelerator. How about Mike on the podcast? What do you do?
So actually, that's a very, very good question. And up to the very last update, I would have said, yes, hit the accelerator every time. With the last update, it's gotten much better. I only have to hit the accelerator maybe 1 out of 4 times. And the reason I'm hitting it is because it's in creep mode, because it's a blind curve or something it can't see very well, and I'm impatient. So,
fair.
But it's done a lot better on the acceleration than what it used to do.
What about you, Doug?
I mean, I again haven't trusted the latest versions, but if I'm on my own, then I just let it do what it's going to do because I'm curious. But my constant experience is other drivers are confused because it's waiting for whatever, and it's doing weird stuff. So yeah, you gotta just stab the accelerator
Push the gas and go.
Yeah, because people get upset at you. So
They do.
Or it makes things less safe because they think you're pausing, and so then they try to go, and now the car's really confused because now there's somebody where it thought it could be. So yeah, you just gotta step on it. You gotta let it go.
Well,
you gotta
like I
make
said,
it
the
go.
newest version is actually a lot better. So
Okay.
So I'll admit, there's the only stop signs I regularly interact with are right outside my neighborhood if we're going to the supermarket, and I generally don't use FSD when I'm going through that part, just because it's such a short. It's just a short distance, and why would I stop for a stop sign? I'm just gonna hold the accelerator. No, I mean honestly, I feel like it's just not worth it to me because I agree it's too slow. A lot of times I was annoyed when the government came in and said you must stop at a stop sign, blah blah blah. It's like, okay, I wasn't doing that. If you have visibility, which in this case you have ample visibility in all directions. If there's nobody there, I mean, but I'm also the same guy that thinks like there's nobody there, you have ample visibility, why stop at a red light? I do because you're gonna get a ticket. But I mean, I also think that like lights and things like that should be like you can stop and then go, right? Like why can't you just go if it's 2 a.m. and there's no one around? But I get it. So whatever.
Well, the light should change as you approach.
The light should change, right? Yeah. Agreed. It should have a sensor and go, oh, okay, and change for you. But
because that's tends to be a much higher speed situation. So
agreed.
So you don't really know what's happening, but the road should have sensors all the way up.
Right,
like a good ways away to know that somebody's coming. So and in some places they do. So but
go ahead, read Chris's comment, Doug. It's hilarious.
Let's see. Chris LaMedico says mine seems to have slowed for a bird flying in front of it the other day. Saved one bird at a time. That's pretty good. I mean, we do want to save wildlife. I don't want it running over cats or even squirrels. But if it's not going to endanger me, I would prefer it not to stop it, not to run over those things. And I don't think it is paying attention to small animals at this point. So I don't even know if it's paying attention to small children at this point. So
ouch.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean I haven't seen mine slow down for a bird, but I mean, hey, cameras, it can definitely see the bird. So.
See,
I mean, I definitely haven't seen it slow down for cats. So
yeah, but cats, I mean, they know what's up, right? No, anyway.
Do they?
They should. All right. So speaking of cameras, I don't know why I said that. Our next topic: privacy concerns around Tesla cameras.
Oh boy, here it comes.
So, and in part of this is related to FSD in a way, but I don't know. Doug, how about you hit us with the details? What's the news on this one?
Right. So there was a report from Reuters, and I can show that here. And so, I mean, the bottom line is that, Tesla is able to see what these cameras see, I suspect from Sentry Mode and perhaps from when there are accidents or other sort of events happen. And it turns out from Reuters talked to several employees and ex-employees, and it's all anonymous. So you have to sort of wonder about the veracity a little bit, but it seems like they talked to enough people that it seems to be an issue. That some of these images are getting passed around on the company internal communication, and that on its own might not be so bad. And some of the people themselves said, "Oh, this was sent to a supervisor for questions," and so that makes sense. That okay, we have this image, we're trying to improve our software. Here's part of what you might consider a bug report, and this is some imagery that helps clarify what happened. But it sounds like also some images were passed around for laughs, some were memed, and that to me would be an abuse of yeah, that crosses the line a bit. So you have to wonder about it, and it looks like and now there's even a class action lawsuit related to that issue. Now, I don't really know that that a lawsuit is really helpful here, or maybe people just taking the opportunity to make such a lawsuit. But it's not great. It's definitely not a good look. I mean, Tesla has a lot of information about you. You have this app. The app has location data, so they know where you are. They know where your car is. They can certainly monitor things if they want. I mean, I know from early days when a journalist would get the car. Like there was a very famous thing where the New York Times got a Model S, and it seemed like the journalist had an agenda, and he was just trying to show that electric cars can't work, and this car, and he had a narrative that the car ran out of juice just as he got to the supercharger. But Tesla was able to see that the guy drove around in circles for a while, But okay, so that's fine, and especially they're able to keep people honest. But what are they doing with that information? Who has access to that information? I mean, there have been cases. You think about abuses by Uber, even abuses by the NSA when you from the Snowden revelations.
Oh man,
gee, I mean, you assume everyone at Tesla's pretty good, but maybe somebody wants to stalk their ex-girlfriend. And that has happened, not from Tesla necessarily, but that has happened at other companies where employees have access to this kind of information. So I would want to know, okay, who has access to information? Is it only the people that should have access to it? And something that occurred to us in the chat in the pre-show is like, this should basically be like, in the early days when your Windows machine was pretty unstable, there would be an error report, and you'd be able to submit an error report, and you're able to actually view what the contents of the error report was. And often it wouldn't make any sense to you, but you were able to view that info before it gets sent out. And I would think that's how Tesla should work. Like if such a thing happens, they should just sort of queue them up. And when you get to your destination, you should be able to review them before you send them out, particularly if that's including like pictures of you. And now there's even a camera in the interior. Maybe you don't want to send that information.
Well,
They know that you're
so
picking your nose, Doug.
so
it could be
you know,
worse than that.
I'll agree with you, Doug, on a lot of that. But if you look how other manufacturers like BMW, Ford, GM, some of the other major manufacturers, when they were interviewed about this, they made a point of saying they don't record video; they use infrared, and it's a closed loop system. So they're basically looking to make sure that you're awake, your eyes are where they belong. But the data never goes anywhere else other than the computer that's making sure you're awake. There is no video camera. There's no pictures being offloaded. Why is it Tesla needs video streams to see what you're doing, and why are they keeping it?
I mean, I'm not necessarily.
I mean that's really the bigger question, I think.
I'm not. I mean, I think there are valuable, useful reasons for that, especially since they're developing a system, and you tend to err on collecting more data. I mean, just as like someone doing an experiment or scientists who are trying to develop something, have more data so you're not like wandering. And the thing about it is to even use like FSD Beta, you have to already agree to all this stuff that, okay, they can collect the
there's
data.
all the click-throughs you have to go through.
And if you block that camera, it just won't work. It's as though, the interior camera is blocked and FSD Beta won't work. Okay, fine. But I feel like Tesla's they're not thinking about the user enough here in terms of, making the user comfortable. Like a lot of it is just a little bit, you sort of set it and forget it. You don't really think about it. I would like the user to be a bit more involved. And honestly, they have that internal camera, and people like Green the Only have been able to sort of probe it and sort of see what it's doing. Like it's labeling you, right? Eyes closed, right? Head looking away or whatever. I want that info too.
I've had it whine when I pick my phone up. It tells me to pay attention.
But I would like to, if it's sending data, I would also like to know, how is it labeling me?
Passenger's head is in your lap. That kind of inappropriate. Inappropriate.
Let's keep it family friendly.
But, right. Inappropriate behavior. Alert.
But yeah, I want to know how it's trying to label me. Give me that. There's no reason they can't give me that information.
Yeah. And it's easy. You're a repeat offender, so that's how they're going to label you. Yeah.
Either way, they are collecting data on us. We should have control of that data. I'm kind of surprised that there isn't or maybe there already is some sort of GDPR type thing going on with this kind of information, and something might already be going on in Germany or something, right?
Yeah. German laws with camera stuff are tricky. Like I worked on a system years ago in Germany where we had a system in the US for hospitals, right? Where doctors are working on patients in ORs. They record everything for insurance. Yeah. And what would happen is there were supervisory doctors that would be observing the surgeries of multiple other doctors. So basically their boss could watch them while they're performing surgeries. And in the US, that was normal. In Germany, we actually had to change the software because they weren't allowed to initiate the video recording from outside the OR. The doctor in the OR had to actually say, okay, we're going to start turning on the cameras so that we can be watched. And so it's interesting because in a car, you're not actively turning on the camera saying, Tesla, you may now look at me now. So I wonder how the law there is different.
Well,
it's the argument of like you sit in your car, you turn on your car, so
you actively have to engage FSD.
Yeah,
I mean FSD isn't on by automatically. You have to you have to manually hit the button.
Yeah, but it's only happening.
It could still be watching me even though FSD is not on. I've already said it can collect data, and it seems pretty broad in terms of what it's able to do. So yeah, I would like it to maybe take a step back and give me more opportunities to know what gets sent. They do have some language about things being contained in the car, but then like a little further down, you're like letting it go. So give me another opportunity to say what gets sent and what doesn't get sent.
And it might just be as simple as, like you said earlier, Doug, there just needs to be controls around who has access to the data inside Tesla and what the data is being used for. So that it isn't turning into memes and being spread around, right? Going to, to various parties that aren't involved. My company has sensitive data. We collect activity data, metrics, and telemetry on hundreds of thousands of users, on their computer work devices, things like that. And we're doing work analytics. And you need to have controls around who can see the data, who can go in there. The location data is bad enough, right? Just from the location data, they can, like you said, if somebody had an agenda, they could track where you are, figure out where you live, figure out where you work, figure out if you're doing things like having an extramarital affair or like all kinds of stuff just from looking at where you go with your phone, where you go with your car. All of that can be figured out. And people are kind of oblivious to what kind of data they're giving up.
Yeah, and I guess one thing about this is that it's not new, right? Like it's not a new issue, right?
Right.
So Tesla should be able to anticipate this, but particularly with already happened a decade ago with Uber and their God mode.
Yep.
And there have been, I don't know, recent sort of dramatizations of that stuff too. So it's part of the culture, part of the social consciousness right now.
And it's come out with like Amazon, with Alexa and Google. Like there's also audio devices in your house and other stuff, right? It's all related.
Right.
Not
so
just
this
your
is
car.
an opportunity for Tesla to be on the right side of things here. And it kind of feels like, I know, just the attitude feels a little bit, we're just going to do what we need to do to get FSD done. And that's it. Okay. But maybe take a step back and make, us, the user, feel a little bit better about it and give us control of our data, because it is our data. It's collect data about us. Particularly if you have a machine making decisions about me, like looking at me and deciding what it thinks I'm doing.
Pay attention.
Right on. So
Stop
I guess we'll
your
see
nose.
what
Pay attention.
we'll see what comes of this. Right? There's a lawsuit, so we'll keep you updated if any new information comes out on this.
Yeah,
but
I mean, with lawsuits, there's discovery, and so we'll see what shakes out. It might not be. I mean, already it doesn't feel too flattering for Tesla. So obviously we want the company to succeed, but we want to keep them honest and make them do the right things. We want them to improve the service too. So and in the end, it should make Tesla better, and that's better for all of us. So.
Oh, Michael Mooney, the comments fantastic. They'll have to mail everyone a piece of tape to cover it. That'll be the settlement agreement. Tesla mails all owners a piece of tape.
Here's your sticky note.
So this is like the Apple. You're holding it wrong on the iPhone
4. Yeah. Here, have a piece of tape. That's fantastic. All right. So I did want to jump into. We did get a nice. This is not really a leak, but somebody flew a drone. This happens fairly often. Flew a drone over Giga Texas. And posted a video to YouTube, as they usually do. But there was a section of it where they actually caught the Cybertruck being tested in some interesting ways. So, Mike, did you watch the video? Did you see this?
I saw it.
Kind of cool.
I saw it. But keep in mind, I'm not a fan of the Cybertruck. So, I just kind of went, yawn.
So, I mean, they were doing some like wind testing. It wasn't really like a full-on wind tunnel. Well, it was outside.
It was interesting because the truck's on like a lazy Susan table almost,
Okay.
So they can kind of spin it and angle, off center the angles, and it's interesting what they're doing. But it's a Cybertruck, whatever.
All right, Mike's not that interested. So where's Mark? We need Mark back.
We need Mark for this.
Yeah, Mark actually cared about this thing. He wanted to be able to roll up and pick up his honeys in his Blade Runner esque vehicle. And he's an LA guy, so that's an LA thing, I guess. So it is interesting. I mean, the Cybertruck is moving along. That wind tunnel thing looks kind of neat, I guess. But so just two main things came out about it. One was that we see the frunk open, so that
cavernous. It's a cavernous frunk. I mean,
well,
I can't see in
the frunk, so I don't know how much space is in there, but it looks like people are saying it's sort of taking a page from the Ford F-150, where
that's what it looks like.
the whole front of the thing is coming up with the hood, so that maybe if you need to put a suitcase in the front, you don't have to lift it, so high. So you lift it up to your waist as opposed to having to lift it up to your shoulders, given how big this thing is. So that's a plus. And then the other thing was the wiper blade.
Windshield wiper.
Huge wiper blade.
Yeah, and I was thinking that might have been why some of the testing they were doing there is like they're spraying water on it, testing the blades to see with the wind traveling on it, like if it was at speed, like how well is it working.
Well, I was watching that same picture and I'm thinking that's a lot of mass to be swinging back and forth over that windshield. And in the really heavy rains we've had lately, where you got to really wipe quickly or you can't see where you're going, this is going to be interesting.
Hard to see the blade there, but you can see it light up because it's
you can see a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have a good sense of the rate either, but I get what you're saying, Mike. You're saying it's so large that it's got some rotational inertia, so they won't be able to. I think
there's going to be some issues when you're trying to go at a high speed to make sure you can see in heavy rain, because you've got the latency of the blade having to swing all the way down to the bottom of the windshield and then swing all the way back up.
It's such a large windshield too. So yeah, I don't know. It's funny because people on TMC have been speculating about this for a while. There was some patent at some point about some laser-based windshield wiper, which sounds a little bit
vaporize the water.
I mean, I would have thought, you have some sort of nano coating on it, so everything beads and runs away anyway.
Yeah, hydrophobic.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's sort of hard to figure out. I mean, they're trying to do the one blade. It doesn't quite stow. I mean, it stows on the A-pillar, I guess.
I was going to say, I saw it on the vertical plane stowed. That seems to be where it's going to end up.
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
maybe we'll find out. Maybe September, maybe December, maybe next year.
In 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised they don't just have a little cubby or like a little just something it stows into. It looks like just sitting out on the A-pillar and it's just there, as opposed to putting a little bit of a
ledge or
hole
something,
cover over it.
Yeah. Or doing something similar to how the Model 3 works, where it's sort of stowed at the hinge of the hood. But it's such a big, long, and I guess flat or mostly flat piece of glass. It's interesting because it is so tall. You can get away with a single blade like that because it's just so the screen is just so big. It's so tall that when it's down, that's wide enough that it's able to actually come up all the way, and it's also that vertical. It seems to have quite a rake to it, So I don't know. That's interesting. I mean, we're seeing little bits of progress with the Cybertruck from that April Fool's video that almost showed a crash video. But it looked like they actually were doing some kind of crash testing, even though we didn't actually get to see the crash test, and that says that it should be close to production intent.
I'm still pent up for that video. Give me the real video.
Yeah. So Michael Mooney says, wait, that is a wind tunnel they're testing it on. Yeah. So if you look at this image, it's a pretty small tunnel too. It's funny because right now I'm near NASA Ames, which has a huge wind tunnel.
Yeah.
And you can see the exterior of it. Like if I go jogging along the Stevens Creek Trail, you see this big square side of a building, and it just kind of condenses down. And obviously it's interior wind tunnel. This looks like a big fan blows at the thing. I don't think it actually enters the mouth of that. It's just blowing high speed laminar flow across the thing.
And that's why I said I think since this is not an interior where you can measure everything and you can
Mhm.
see the full aerodynamics, I think this is just to test the windshields primarily, or in the wiper blades and
See
stuff.
if
I
the
think
blades
they're
flutter.
Yeah, I mean-
emulating like it's at speed. How well does the blade
they
work?
could have a little bit of a smoke source somewhere to sort of see
Sure.
how the flow is and check for vortices and stuff. But yeah, it's not so controlled that in a normal wind tunnel, you wouldn't have the outside elements of cross breezes, and you wouldn't have, and you'd have a camera setup that could
Right.
actually sort of, capture that and get some
they do
visual.
have
They have a front
cameras.
camera.
They do have several cameras around it on tripods.
Yeah, you can see them on the tripods there.
Yeah.
but
but
still,
you have to
yeah.
wonder about it a little
Well,
bit.
I mean, and that makes sense because as the car rotates off center, you've now got the wind hitting that blade on an angle, and blades want to lift. So I'm wondering if they're trying to see how badly this thing's going to lift.
for sure.
And in the bright sunlight, maybe, I don't know, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not the normal way you see it. Normally it's in some kind of interior tunnel, but
Correct.
I don't know. I guess they do it on the cheap here.
Quick and dirty testing.
Yeah. So
We'll see how it goes.
yeah.
But it's still some update. Cybertruck. Maybe you'll get your Cybertruck by Christmas, Jones one. If when you do get it, you'll have to let us know what you think of it, because
That's right.
I'm certainly not going to buy one. But
Me
it
neither.
is a little bit interesting. Tesla gets to kind of take the Apple approach here, which is because it seems like everybody else already has their electric truck, right?
Everyone did come out with it between the time of Tesla announcing Cybertruck,
Right.
and Tesla coming out with the Cybertruck.
They had to sort of know. I wonder if they're trying to do what Microsoft used to do, which was just announce that they're going to do something so everybody else can't do it. But that didn't quite happen here. But maybe they can, once they go to production, they can go with some learnings from the competitors. I mean, Rivian has a nice product there. You have a compressor available, you have power available. Ford has you can power. You have power available.
Power
there
your house
also.
from the Ford.
You can power your house from the Ford. These are things that Tesla shied away from in the past, but maybe they'll be forced to include those sort of features. If we look at their other offerings, they were really pioneers. Though right now they start to feel a little bit lagging in terms of features, in terms of like the quality of the interior and cameras and ultrasonic sensors and all that other stuff that everyone has.
A question I've read rumors. That's all I've seen, rumors that they're going to offer colors of paint for the truck versus just plain stainless.
My understanding that's as wraps. I don't think they're actually going to
wrap. Okay.
Yeah, you can wrap stainless as opposed to painting. It's kind of hard, actually.
I was thinking painting would be very challenging on stainless. You can do it, but it's tough.
Yeah, so I think people will wrap it. I don't think that's a bad solution. You can change a wrap. Wrapping is cheaper, easier than painting, probably.
I wonder how Tesla
is.
would warranty a factory wrap, because a wrap would last here in California maybe 3 years. The sun just cooks it.
Yeah, I mean, I got a 3M wrap, and the way they talked about the color change wrap, I can't remember exactly, but I think they talked about it as a 5-year product or something. So it's not something. It's not something for the life of the product, and they make a distinction between horizontal surfaces versus vertical surfaces.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
So like your hood and your trunk, they expect to not last as long. The PPF, they these days they give more time to it and doesn't yellow like it used to. So that was I think a 7-year product.
7 years.
Or something.
Yeah, 7 years when I looked at them.
Yeah, so maybe if that's 7 years, maybe the color change was something more like 3 or 4 years. I'm just not remembering completely.
It'll be interesting to see what comes out when they release it finally.
Yeah. I mean, a good wrap is a few $1,000s. So
to do my car in a full wrap, just PPF is about $6,000.
Ouch.
$5,000 to $6,000.
Yeah.
But a paint job is $15,000, like a good paint job.
Yeah.
So still cheaper.
you expect a paint job to last, barring a accident.
I
You
saw
expect a paint job to last the life of the car, right?
I saw something that was like a spray wrap the other day, where it
Oh
was a
yeah.
high gloss product. It's removable. It looks like paint, but it's considered a wrap because it is removable. But it looked
Yeah.
very intriguing.
There's the Plastidip. I'm not sure how that's applied.
No, this was beyond this. I know Plastidip and I've used it. It's kind of a matte.
And there's like ceramic coatings and stuff.
Yeah, this was
that's
high
different.
gloss. This looked like paint.
But it ends up being like something
It's
you
a
can peel
peelable.
away.
Yeah, you can peel it away after a year or two.
Interesting.
It was very interesting. Expensive. It wasn't cheap.
Tesla isn't really known for having great paint to begin with, so
Nope.
I mean that they already in China they had. I don't know if it's so much a factory option. Maybe it's maybe they do it in conjunction with some other vendor there. But Chinese a Chinese customer, they're a little bit more demanding. Somehow we get away with in the U.S. they get away with a lot more that they don't accept in China. And here they're selling a car with only like 4 colors, so they had to kind of wrap in, so to speak, that wrap option so that people could have the colors they wanted. And so anyway, it makes sense for the Cybertruck also. I stainless is cool. I like the that sort of DeLorean.
I like the stainless look. I like the stainless look.
Whether or not you like the Cybertruck itself,
I think
I'm kind of surprised. I'm kind of surprised they didn't do fancy doors on the Cybertruck. Like at least
style.
like the gull or
like a Lamborghini,
like the Gamberlini, like the scissor.
Oh,
doors,
where they lift forward.
Yeah.
But maybe that'll affect how bulletproof
there's
they are.
There's a Model 3 upgrade kit for that.
You mean a downgrade kit?
Oh man. Oh boy. All right.
Here it comes.
So we'll tack on. So Doug, you mentioned you're near NASA Ames. We'll tack on some SpaceX news. So we normally cover Tesla stuff, but it's still Elon. They're kind of related.
We're all geeks.
And it's a pretty exciting launch. Exciting launch. So Doug, give us the breakdown. Tell about this launch that's coming.
But these are the things that we want Elon working on, right?
Forget Twitter. Yeah.
This is how you get your Tesla on Mars. You need this to happen first.
Yeah, I need this to happen and focus on this stuff. So SpaceX has they're extremely successful. They more than any other launching entity, including whole nations, have the most mass to orbit in the last couple of years. Their cadence is unprecedented in that they, like right now, they have a launch at least one a week, sometimes twice a week, basically it feels like every other day. Just
I don't even watch them anymore because they're so often
news. I mean, it's really a non-event now.
Yeah. I watch everyone I can, at least up until the landing, particularly if it's the return to launch side. That just does not get old for me. And they do a great job of the imagery. So it's interesting because it's now been about 2 years since we started seeing the Starship tests. So they were actually launching vertically the Starship and then going through this experiment of this landing procedure, which I can't imagine any human actually enduring, where it does this belly flop so that it has a large surface area to slow it down in the atmosphere and then swing around so it can make a propulsive landing on its tail. And I guess it was 2 years ago now. Those were spectacular because most of them ended in an amazing explosion.
Fireballs.
And there's one that landed and stuck to landing. It was great, and you're just watching it, and then kaboom! It just blew up like 3 minutes later. Like, whoa, that was so impressive because it's it's an interesting rocket in that it's using methyl LOX. It's using liquid methane and liquid oxygen, which are both about the same temperature, like around on the order of 80 degrees Kelvin. And so it's a exciting thing.
Sorry.
Anyway,
says the giant nerd.
those were all pretty much just sort of vertical tests, and that was just with the ship. Now in Boca Chica, Texas, they have the I guess it's called the whatever the launcher. I forgot what they called. There's Super Heavy. Maybe that's what it's called. Super Heavy and Starship. And that stack is amazing. And you like see images of that. It's like, okay, it's happening. It's happening. And we're living in the future. And
this is like a bigger rocket than Saturn V, right? Like historically.
Well, yeah, this thing's like 400 feet high. It's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge. Tons of thrust.
Saturn V being the rocket that got us to the moon. For those that aren't
33
space
engines on the main stage. So they borrow the page from the Russians.
Yeah, well, it's it's an interesting approach, right? Because it's kind of like the CS approach, right? Where you write a function and then you just use that function
over and over
again. and that that was the model of the Falcon 9. We had the Falcon 1, which had a single Merlin engine, and then the Falcon 9 just repeated those Merlin engines.
Has 9 of them.
Yeah, has 9 of them exactly.
Hence the name.
And if you look at the Falcon Heavy, it's just like, okay, those things all sort of stacked together, three Falcon 9 cores stacked together. This is a different beast altogether. It's so huge. It's so big. It's hard to even describe. And it's all like stainless steel and shiny like the Cybertruck, except for the heat shield on the ship, which will have a landing, re-enter the atmosphere, kind of like the shuttle did, and that it has to put this flat side to the atmosphere. Anyway, the main deal though is that this thing now is going to do something like an orbital test. So what we had 2 years ago was the ship just going pretty much straight up, straight down. This thing's going to launch and go sideways close to 25 times the speed of sound, and but it won't quite reach orbit. It will be, it'll have an orbit that is a radius that's less than the orbit the radius of the Earth, and will crash into the ocean around Hawaii. And this can happen as early as tomorrow morning. So we'll see if that happens. I think they have an opportunity in the next few days. I don't know if Elon will shoot for it to happen on April 20th, so they can make a 420 joke. That would be very much in his style, but hopefully they'll just do it as soon as it's ready, and I'll be watching.
Yeah, it'll be cool. And this is basically the platform that they need to get finished and working, prove out. So because they've been selected for NASA going back to the moon, basically, so they're going to be part of that. This Starship effort. And on top of the Falcon Heavy or whatever the first stage is called, this is going to be
it's called the Super Heavy. Yeah,
the Super Heavy. Sorry, the Super Heavy. This is what SpaceX will be using to get astronauts to the moon.
Right.
As part as us returning to the moon, basically.
Right. So they were selected for what's called HLS, the Human Landing System, and Starship is supposed to be used for that as part of Artemis 3. Recently, the Artemis 2 crew was selected, and they're going in the Orion capsule, and they're just going around the moon and coming back. But they need to be able to land on the moon. And SpaceX was selected mainly because they have a track record of actually developing something and making it happen, and
landing.
Well, and they've shown that they can do landings, at least on Earth. So it's interesting. I mean, when you look at it, though, it's like, wow, this is so convoluted. So the astronauts are going to launch on Orion and then have to do a space transfer, transfer to Starship to land on the moon and then return from the moon. You have to sort of think what's really going on, but it feels like a way
Politics
to keep SLS, a way to keep SLS involved. Because and for SpaceX to be able to do this, they're going to have to do orbital refueling. And that's funny because that's something that basically Congress, Senator Shelby, have been. They never wanted to hear anything about orbital refueling, because once you do orbital refueling, you don't need a huge, crazy rocket like SLS. So they wanted to keep that money going. So let's not do orbital refueling. But so the irony is here we got to do orbital refueling because Orion isn't a lander. It's just a capsule similar to like, like the Apollo capsule, but it's like
a lot
not
like the Apollo capsule.
But it
but
doesn't,
it's not,
doesn't
but
have
it
the
doesn't have the
landing
lander.
module. Yeah, it doesn't have the landing module. So have we done orbital refueling without manned craft before? Because they're technically going to have to launch this up and then have it orbitally refuel without any crew aboard. We haven't done that before, right?
I don't think so. Not that I remember.
I mean, there's stuff that has to happen with the space station, obviously.
Sure.
That's not the level that they're talking here.
Well, is it? I mean, there are people on the space station, so you need to be extra careful. But typically, the way like the space station gets boosted is that you send up something like the Progress module,
right? Push it,
and then that has its own fuel and it pushes it, right? So that in this case, I mean, it certainly hasn't been done on this scale. There's a lot of technology that has to be developed. I don't know how they're going to stay on schedule for it. I mean, SLS launched, I went down to Florida for it. SLS launched just, it feels like just a few months ago. And that was so delayed. It's funny when you think about it because the administrator at the time, Charlie Gordon, they talked about SLS. And at that point, the competition was Falcon Heavy, and Falcon Heavy has, well before SLS ever launched, it has launched. It had a successful launch. It's had several successful missions. And oddly enough, all this stuff like this moon mission, if SpaceX would invest in human rating the Falcon Heavy, all this could have been done.
Right.
All this could have been done. We could have done this with Falcon Heavy. But Elon has a very singular vision, and he's like, okay, well, we're going to do this even bigger, better thing, and there's no point in investing in Falcon Heavy anymore, which, to me is kind of sad because I think we could be you could do both, and we could make a lot more progress and do things. But I guess this feeling is if you end up investing in Falcon Heavy and you start doing all your lunar stuff with Falcon Heavy, then
you're not going to develop.
You're not going to develop Starship, which you need for Mars, right?
Mars.
So that's his goal is Mars. It's like the moon has been done, and so but he'll get a government contract to go to the moon, so he'll go ahead and do that. But he really wants to go to Mars, and if the government's going to help develop Starship to do that landing, okay, more power to it. So I guess it makes sense, but we could have already been on the moon, back to the moon, if we did it with Falcon Heavy. So it's a little bit sad to me. It's kind of like saying, hey, we're going to do all our sensing on a car with vision. So we don't need these ultrasonic sensors we already got that work fine. Let's go ahead and ditch them so that we're forced to put all our investment in vision, even though it doesn't quite work yet. So that's
what an interesting hypothetical situation you just described.
I mean, it's I think it's that exact analogy because not to harp on it anymore. It's only because of Elon, right? You wouldn't remove ultrasonic sensors from that work, and unless Elon was like, hey, that needs to go. Like no one else would be able to make that decision and
at
have
the company,
people at the company
and
make it stick, right? So it's a similar thing with Starship. Like, okay, Falcon Heavy, we're going to work on Starship. And Falcon Heavy hardly has any customers really, because the Falcon 9's capability was able to be extended so that hardly any missions really exist for something like Falcon Heavy, unless you were going to the moon with it.
Right. Okay. So bringing it all back, wrapping it up. Really cool mission, SpaceX, potentially launching tomorrow morning, as long as all things work out with weather and checks and systems and all that. And basically this giant freaking rocket.
It was called the BFR.
It was called the BFR. This big rocket, big effing rocket is going to be taking off, essentially going almost to orbit. It's going to technically be suborbital, but it's essentially like an orbital test. And then it'll be crashing back down. They're not trying to land it.
They're
Correct?
not landing
just,
this.
First three, they're just crashing. And if it doesn't happen tomorrow, what do we got? A couple each day. There's a window for the next few days.
There's a window for the next couple days. So
Okay.
17th, 18th, 19th. As far as I know, the last time I looked. So.
All right. And so, do you expect them to? I guess they'll televise the crash either way, so you'll get to see
Oh,
something
yeah.
blow up.
Oh yeah.
If everything goes well, you're going to get to see an explosion, and if everything goes poorly, you still might get to see an explosion.
That's something SpaceX has been great about, which is showing this stuff to the public, and we got to watch fantastic explosions, right? So no matter what, something interesting will happen, unless it's a scrub.
Right.
Something interesting will happen, and yeah, I mean they're going to. I mean, you have to think about the Super Heavy goes back to the launch site for the most part. That's the design for that, and they'll have it come back, but it'll just go into the Gulf. They're not going to risk blowing up their launch tower, and that's another crazy thing. No one else would do this except Elon thought, oh, this is a good idea. Instead of putting landing legs on it, let's just catch it with the chopsticks. Yeah. It's like, okay, but you might blow up your whole launch tower. Yeah, we can do it.
Whatever. Build another.
So at least the first three of those are just going in the drink. And some interesting thing I heard about it, though, is that when it goes down, they'll open up the ports because it needs to sink. You need to either recover it or scuttle it. They can't just sit there floating in the ocean. So it would be buoyant if most of the tanks are empty, right? So they may have to shoot holes into it to get it to sink. So that's something that might happen also. And the thing's full of methane and oxygen, so that could be exciting also.
Exciting, yes.
Yeah, it's like the end of a Bond movie or something. Shoot it to blow it up. So
look like a submarine just exploding. Yeah. Sweet. Alrighty, well, that's it for our show, episode 39. Just want to thank everyone for hanging out with us. Thanks for the questions. If you enjoyed it, feel free to like and subscribe. We appreciate it. You can always become a supporting member on Tesla Motors Club forums on teslamotorsclub.com. We appreciate it, guys. Thanks, Danny and Adam and James and those behind the scenes that are helping make this happen. Almost forgot to thank the producers. Can't do that. That's it for our show. So we'll see you next time.
See ya.